I sat in a quiet cafe on Michigan Avenue when my phone buzzed with a call from Laura. Olivia, congrats on our breakthrough. Your strategy saved the deal. My hands shook because that was my strategy, shared in a trusting conversation over coffee. But the LinkedIn notification showed photos of Laura and Justin at the client's press conference. No mention of me. Betrayal hit like a sharp stab in the chest. My business partner and friend, with whom I'd shared dreams of success, had stolen not just the idea, but my identity. Olivia first noticed the cracks a week earlier, when Laura started dodging their joint meetings, citing busyness, without specifics. Justin, with whom they'd launched the agency 3 years ago, suddenly stopped replying to her messages about client details, leaving her queries hanging in unanswered threads. Tension built during their last team huddle, where Laura seized the floor and outlined a fresh strategy that mirrored Olivia's notes from their recent brainstorm session almost word for word. Doubt clawed at her gut. Were they sidelining her on purpose? That night, unable to sleep, Olivia stared at the ceiling, a cold emptiness settling in. The trust that had anchored their partnership was fracturing, leaving behind a quiet anger and fear of what lay ahead. The next day, she pushed for clarity during a quick check-in call. Laura brushed it off, insisting everything was fine and that they'd discuss later, her tone clipped and evasive. Justin chimed in briefly, agreeing they were all aligned, but his words felt rehearsed, lacking the easy rapport they'd once shared. Olivia ended the call with a knot in her stomach, sensing the shift but not yet grasping its depth. She reviewed her shared documents, spotting subtle edits that credited the ideas to the team without naming her contributions. By midweek, the avoidance escalated. Laura canceled a crucial client prep without explanation, texting only that she'd handle it solo with Justin. Olivia's messages seeking updates went ignored for hours, then days. Frustration simmered as she pieced together patterns. Late-night emails between her partners that excluded her, whispers during office hours that stopped when she approached. The agency's future, built on their combined strengths, now felt precarious, her role reduced to an afterthought. That Friday, during a routine progress review, the blow landed harder. Laura presented preliminary slides to the team, weaving in elements Olivia had developed over months of research: target demographics, viral campaign hooks, budget allocations, all rephrased as their innovation. Justin nodded along, adding minor tweaks as if they'd originated them together. Olivia spoke up once, suggesting an adjustment based on her data, but Laura overrode it smoothly, implying it didn't fit the new direction. The room moved on, but inside, Olivia's chest tightened with betrayal's first real grip. They weren't just excluding her. They were erasing her. She confronted them indirectly that evening via email, outlining her concerns about credit and involvement. Their joint response arrived swiftly, polite but firm. The strategy had evolved through collaboration, and for the client's sake, they'd take the lead presentation. No apology, no invitation to join, just a subtle push toward the sidelines. Rage flickered, hot and unfamiliar, mingling with confusion. How had the woman she'd mentored, the man she'd trusted with her vision, turned so cold? Over the weekend, isolation deepened. Social media feeds filled with subtle posts from Laura about team wins and Justin's updates on networking events she hadn't been invited to. Olivia scrolled through old photos of their startup days, late nights pitching ideas, celebrating small victories, each one a reminder of what was slipping away. Sleep evaded her again, replaced by a growing resolve amid the pain. This wasn't mere oversight, it was deliberate displacement. The anger sharpened into something colder, urging her to gather facts rather than lash out. Monday brought confirmation of the rift. A forwarded internal memo from the client praised Laura and Justin's pitch, noting Olivia's support role as minimal. Her heart pounded as she read the lines accusing her of inconsistent input, a narrative she'd never heard before. Betrayal's weight pressed down, not in tears, but in a numb determination. She backed up every file, every time-stamped note, feeling the shift from victim to vigilant observer. The calm she'd clung to shattered, replaced by a storm of quiet fury that demanded action. As the week wore on, the exclusion intensified. Calls went to voicemail, meetings were rescheduled without her. Olivia worked alone, refining her original strategy in secret, each revision a thread pulling her from despair toward clarity. The pain of lost friendship stung, but anger fueled focus. on the evidence, on her worth. Tension coiled tighter, every ignored message a spark igniting her resolve to reclaim what was hers, not through confrontation, but through undeniable truth. That morning, an email from the client landed in Olivia's inbox, confirming the worst. Justin and Laura had pitched the strategy as entirely their own, securing the deal without her input. Attached was a forwarded internal memo from the agency, labeling her contributions as unproductive and justifying her exclusion from the project. Shock rooted her in place. Not explosive tears or shouts, but a deep, internal freeze that turned her stomach to ice. She scanned the document again, noting how it twisted her late-night refinements into vague team efforts, crediting Justin for the core concepts she'd outlined months earlier. The betrayal sank in slowly, layer by layer. Olivia pulled up their shared drive, cross-referencing timestamps. Her initial draft from 2 weeks ago, emailed directly to both partners with detailed breakdowns of market analysis and campaign timelines. Laura had replied then with enthusiasm, promising to build on it together. Now, those same elements appeared in the client's approval notes, rebranded under Justin's name alone. Confusion swirled with the pain. How could the people she'd confided in, shared vulnerabilities over coffee breaks, rewrite history so cleanly? Anger stirred beneath the numbness, not wild but precise, sharpening her focus on the discrepancies. She dug deeper into old threads, uncovering a pattern of subtle shifts. A group chat from last month showed Laura suggesting minor changes to Olivia's visuals, only for Justin to implement them without follow-up discussion. Their responses had grown curt, deflecting her questions about progress, with assurances that everything aligned. No outright lies, but omissions that now screamed intent. The realization hit harder. This wasn't oversight. It was calculated erasure, stripping her from the narrative they'd sold to the world. By noon, the full scope emerged. A LinkedIn post from the agency's official page celebrated the win, tagging Justin and Laura with praise for innovative leadership, while her name appeared nowhere, not even in the acknowledgments. Colleagues messaged congratulations, assuming her involvement, but the client's direct email clarified the hierarchy, her role minimized to administrative support. Betrayal's sting deepened into humiliation, as if her 3 years of building the agency from scratch counted for nothing. She felt exposed, her trust weaponized against her, fueling a quiet rage that demanded evidence over emotion. Olivia avoided direct confrontation, instead archiving every interaction. Screenshots of chats, version histories from shared files, even metadata on the strategy deck showing her as the original creator. The process steadied her, transforming shock into a steely calm. She recalled a late session where she'd voiced doubts about the client's demands. Laura had nodded supportively, only to pivot in the memo to portray her as hesitant and unreliable. That indirect dismissal cut deepest, revealing the depth of their duplicity, not just stealing credit, but tarnishing her reputation to justify it. As the afternoon dragged, isolation amplified the hurt. A call from a mutual contact hinted at rumors, whispers in industry circles about her fading role, planted by Justin during networking lunches she hadn't attended. The anger crystallized then, cold and unyielding, pushing past confusion toward resolve. This revelation wasn't the end, it was the spark. She wouldn't lash out in accusations that could backfire. Instead, she'd arm herself with irrefutable proof, turning their deception into her leverage. The pain lingered, a raw ache in her chest, but it forged determination, silent, strategic, ready to reclaim her place without descending to their level. Doubt crept in briefly as she reviewed the files, questioning her own memory. Had she misread their intentions all along? But the evidence mounted, undeniable. Emails timestamped before their independent developments, notes Laura had borrowed and never returned. The betrayal's weight pressed, evoking a profound sense of loss for the partnership she believed in, but grief gave way to clarity. Olivia closed her laptop, heart pounding with newfound purpose. They had erased her once, but she would rewrite the story on her terms, exposing the truth through channels that honored justice over vengeance. The evening brought final confirmation. An anonymous tip from within the agency, likely a sympathetic junior, forwarded a recording of the pitch meeting, where Justin claimed the strategy as his brainchild, dismissing Olivia's input as preliminary sketches. Listening to it, fury boiled quietly. mingled with sorrow for the trust shattered. No more illusions. This was war, waged with facts. Her transformation accelerated, from stunned victim to empowered witness, tension coiling as she outlined next steps, the path ahead clear and unyielding. Olivia wasted no time on raw emotion after the revelation. She channeled the shock into methodical preparation, starting with a secure external drive to compile every piece of evidence. Timestamps on her original strategy documents showed her authorship clearly. Emails sent to Laura and Justin weeks before their pitch, including market projections she'd researched alone during unpaid overtime. She cross-checked these against the agency's shared server, noting how they'd altered file metadata to obscure her contributions, a move that confirmed their intent. Anger fueled the focus, not as blind fury, but as a precise tool, sharpening her resolve to expose the theft without personal confrontation. She avoided impulsive outreach, instead researching industry watchdogs and journalists known for covering intellectual property disputes in marketing circles. A quick scan of recent articles revealed a reporter from Marketing Insider, specializing in ethical breaches, who had broken similar stories without naming sources. Olivia drafted an anonymous tip outlining the key facts, the strategy's origins, the exclusion memo, and the pitch recording's implications. No accusations, just verifiable details for their investigation. Tension mounted as she hit send, heart racing at the risk of exposure, yet a cold clarity guided her. This wasn't revenge, but restoration of truth through professional channels. Over the next days, she fortified her position quietly. Updating her personal portfolio with dated backups of the work, she removed any agency branding to protect against counterclaims. A call to a trusted mentor from her early career days provided indirect advice. Document everything, then step back and let facts speak. The mentor suggested consulting a freelance attorney for a non-disclosure review, emphasizing that legal leverage came from preparation, not litigation threats. Olivia followed through, securing a brief consultation where the lawyer confirmed the evidence's strength for a potential whistleblower claim, advising her to monitor developments without direct involvement. Isolation from her former partners intensified the pressure, their social media posts now mocking in their oblivious celebration of the win. Laura shared client testimonials crediting their vision, while Justin networked aggressively, landing follow-up gigs based on the stolen pitch. Each update twisted the knife, stirring fresh waves of betrayal's pain, years of shared struggles reduced to their gain. But Olivia pushed through, analyzing the broader fallout, the client's potential backlash if deceived, the agency's vulnerability to audits. This insight shifted her from victim to strategist, plotting how the truth's emergence would unravel their facade naturally. She practiced restraint in communications, responding to agency emails with neutral confirmations of her availability, buying time while building her exit plan. Internally, the conflict raged. Doubt whispered that confrontation might salvage the partnership, but evidence screamed otherwise. The anger evolved, cooling into unyielding determination. She envisioned the article's release, not as her triumph, but as justice unfolding. Sleepless nights blurred into focus sessions, reviewing legal templates for partnership dissolution and scouting freelance opportunities that valued original thinkers. By week's end, the plan solidified: feed the journalist incremental updates if needed, then disengage completely, redirecting energy to her independent projects. A subtle test came when Justin messaged about a minor task, his tone casual, as if nothing had fractured. Olivia replied briefly, noting her records for accuracy, planting a seed of unease without revealing her hand. The exchange heightened the stakes. Any slip could alert them early, but her composure held, the internal transformation accelerating from wounded ally to autonomous force. Risks loomed larger as she considered repercussions: backlash from industry peers, financial strain from leaving the agency abruptly. Yet the humiliation of erasure outweighed fear, propelling her forward. She reached out to a small network of former colleagues, gauging interest in collaborative ventures outside the tainted firm, their responses encouraging without details. This quiet outreach rebuilt confidence, turning isolation into opportunity. The planning phase peaked in clarity: justice through exposure, not destruction, with her role as catalyst rather than accuser. As the journalist acknowledged receipt, promising verification, Olivia felt the tension coil tighter, anticipation mixed with dread of the unknown. No direct talks with Laura or Justin. Instead, she prepared a resignation draft, timing it for post-exposure impact. The pain of betrayal lingered, a dull throb, but resolve drowned it out, forging her into someone who controlled the narrative. Each step deepened the shift, from reactive hurt to proactive power, the path to reckoning now irreversible. The industry conference in downtown Chicago buzzed with sessions on digital trends when the article dropped online that morning. A detailed exposé from Marketing Insider titled "Stolen Strategies: How One Agency's Pitch Concealed a Partner's Original Work." Olivia sat in the back row during the keynote, her laptop open to the live feed, as the piece outlined the discrepancies. Her time-stamped emails predating the pitch, the altered metadata on shared files, and the pitch recordings claims of independent creation. No names for her source, just facts that painted Justin and Laura as beneficiaries of unauthorized use. Tension gripped her chest, a mix of dread and anticipation, as the room's energy shifted when phones began lighting up with notifications. Up on stage, Laura moderated a panel on ethical innovation, her responses to questions flowing smoothly until a moderator referenced the breaking story. The audience murmured, and Laura deflected indirectly, stating that all work stemmed from team collaboration without specifics. Justin, seated beside her, nodded agreement, but his follow-up on transparency rang hollow against the article's evidence. Questions from the floor escalated, colleagues probing the credit attribution, a client rep in the crowd expressing concerns over due diligence. Olivia watched their composure crack. Laura's answers grew evasive, Justin's contributions clipped, the once celebrated duo now defensive under scrutiny. By midday, fallout rippled through the event. The client who'd signed the deal issued a public statement via email blast, announcing a review of the contract and pausing payments pending verification of originality. Whispers spread in hallways, attendees debating the ethics, some pulling Justin aside for clarification that he couldn't provide without contradicting the record. Olivia stayed peripheral, networking quietly with a few contacts who'd messaged her privately, hinting at freelance openings based on her known expertise. No confrontation from her. She let the evidence do the work, the satisfaction emerging not from their discomfort, but from the validation of her preparations. Afternoon sessions brought sharper consequences. Agency emails flooded in, HR summoning an emergency call where Justin downplayed the article as misinformation, urging unity, but Laura's separate message admitted internal review, indirectly acknowledging the exposure. Industry forums lit up with discussions, peers distancing themselves from the firm, one major prospect retracting a tentative offer. Olivia forwarded her resignation draft to her attorney for final tweaks, timing it for the next day, her focus shifting to interviews she'd lined up with a rival consultancy valuing independent creators. The humiliation they'd inflicted reversed, their actions boomeranging through professional channels. As the conference wound down, a group of marketers confronted the panelists post-session, demanding transparency on the strategy's origins. Laura cited collaborative evolution, but the client's on-site rep interrupted with news of the contract suspension, citing potential intellectual property risks. Justin attempted to pivot to future projects, but skepticism hung thick, contacts exchanging cards away from them. Olivia observed from afar, heart steady now, the cold resolve from planning yielding to quiet empowerment. She submitted her resume to the consultancy that evening, receiving an immediate callback for a senior role that recognized her uncredited innovations. The article's impact extended beyond the event. By nightfall, the agency's website pulled the case study, and a follow-up piece quoted anonymous sources confirming the theft scope, leading to calls for industry audits on partnership agreements. Laura messaged Olivia indirectly through a mutual friend, suggesting a meeting to clear the air, but Olivia declined via text, stating she preferred professional resolutions. Justin's LinkedIn activity halted, his network shrinking as endorsements withdrew. The consequences unfolded organically. No shouts or accusations from her, just the mirror of truth reflecting their choices back at them. Olivia walked out of the venue into the evening air, the weight of betrayal lifting as new opportunities solidified. A contract offer arrived overnight, terms highlighting her strategic acumen without agency ties. Respect for her approach grew in quiet ways, mentors praising her discretion, peers reaching out for collaborations built on trust. The catharsis settled deep, not glee at their downfall, but pride in navigating the storm with integrity, emerging stronger. Justice had arrived through exposure, her role as unseen architect ensuring the balance without compromising her principles. Weeks after the conference, Olivia stood on the shore of Lake Michigan, the wind carrying away the last echoes of tension as she processed the final ripples of exposure. No apologies came from Laura or Justin, only silence from their end, broken by a single indirect outreach through a shared contact, suggesting mediation that she declined without response. The agency's dissolution proceedings began quietly, with Justin filing for separation and Laura seeking new employment, their joint ventures collapsing under client withdrawals and audit demands. Olivia focused on her transition, accepting the senior role at the rival consultancy, where her strategies now received full credit from day one. Relief washed over her, not triumphant but steady, marking the end of constant vigilance. She rebuilt methodically, launching a personal consulting side project that drew clients impressed by her discretion during the scandal. Morning started with strategy sessions untainted by past shadows, her inputs shaping campaigns without second-guessing. A brief email exchange with her former mentor confirmed industry respect. Peers viewed her as resilient, not vengeful, with invitations to speak on ethical collaboration. The pain of betrayal had dulled to a faint scar, replaced by confidence in her judgment. Trust now earned through actions, not blind faith. Financial stability returned as her new salary covered rent and savings, allowing focus on growth rather than survival. Indirect updates trickled in about her ex-partner's struggles. Justin's networking attempts rebuffed by wary firms, Laura pivoting to freelance gigs at reduced rates after contract losses. No schadenfreude gripped her. Instead, a quiet acknowledgement that their choices had isolated them, while she advanced. During a team meeting at the new firm, her original campaign ideas, refined from backups, earned unanimous approval, validating years of unseen effort. Colleagues shared stories of similar breaches, fostering bonds built on mutual caution, not naivety. By month's end, Olivia reviewed her archived evidence one last time, then deleted the files, symbolizing closure. No need to hold on to proof when justice had run its course. A walk along the lake path brought reflection. The confusion and anger that once dominated now served as lessons in boundaries. She declined a podcast invitation to recount the ordeal, opting instead for privacy, her energy directed toward mentoring juniors on protecting intellectual work. Satisfaction stemmed from self-reliance. The internal storm quieted into purposeful calm. New opportunities emerged organically, a collaboration with an ethical marketing network, proposals for her own workshop series on strategy development. Interactions with old acquaintances shifted. Those who'd witnessed the fallout offered support without pity, recognizing her poise. The transformation felt complete. From erased contributor to authoritative voice, the weight of humiliation lifted by proven competence. Evenings wound down with planning sessions for personal goals, free from the dread of exclusion. As fall deepened, Olivia received confirmation of a settlement from the agency's wind down, partial restitution for her uncredited hours, routed through legal channels without her pursuit. She donated a portion to a startup incubator for underrepresented creators, channeling the experience into broader impact. No lingering resentment toward Laura or Justin. Their absence from her narrative affirmed the lesson. They had dismantled their own credibility. Peace settled in, a hard-won strength that propelled her forward, unburdened and empowered. The horizon stretched clear, projects aligning with her vision, relationships forged on transparency. Olivia glanced back only to appreciate the distance traveled, knowing resilience had turned violation into victory. Freedom came not from their ruin, but from her reclamation, whole, directed, at ease.